The center of the action, Congressman David Cicilline, who serves on the Judiciary Committee. Thanks for coming on tonight.
My pleasure. Good to be with you.
Let's start with something that I think viewers and people interested in this story always want to know. Why, 5 days out from the midterms, are these emails coming out? Are they coming from the Bannons of the world?
Look, I don't think we know where they're coming from, but it's just the most recent example of a member of the president's inner circle lying about their actions during the course of the campaign. Roger Stone said just a couple of days ago he had no communications with the Trump campaign about WikiLeaks. We now know that that's a lie, that he was emailing Steve Bannon directly about those, and then 3 days later, of course, the first stolen emails are released. So I think it's just more evidence as to why we have to protect Robert Mueller's investigation, be sure that he's allowed to complete his work and take us to wherever the facts lead us. And we have a number of bills pending in Congress to protect Mr. Mueller and prevent political interference or prevent his firing. Our Republican colleagues won't move forward on any of them. But I think this really underscores the importance of this investigation continuing to its conclusion and then filing a report with Congress so we can take whatever action is appropriate.
It appears that Mueller has some very key people, not just those who flipped, like Paul Manafort, but also those like Don McGahn, who's the departed White House lawyer, and Steve Bannon, who I just mentioned, who are providing all kinds of information. I want to play for you what Steve Bannon admitted to me under questioning, which is that if Donald Trump was in the loop about the Trump Tower meeting, that would be very concerning because he saw it as treasonous-style behavior. Take a look. What about it made it treasonous in your view?
I just didn't look. I think for a professional like Paul Manafort, I don't think you ought to ever have, people from other countries, Russians or whatever, come in and try to get opposition research with federal authority.
If a candidate knows about that in advance, then are they part of treasonous behavior by your standard?
I think you have to call into question if somebody's actually out there trying to get information from foreign parties. You have to question that. Yeah.
So if Mueller could prove that about Donald Trump, that would concern you?
It would definitely concern me, yes. But the president's been pretty adamant that he didn't know about it and hasn't known about it.
What does it tell you that people like Steve Bannon in public and presumably as well in private are taking that kind of hard line that basically says if the evidence against Trump is bad, then the chips fall where they may?
I mean, it's hard to know, but it's hard to imagine that the president didn't know about the Trump Tower meeting and conversations with his son that happened in Trump Tower. But this is just one more piece of evidence I think that Mr. Mueller has to review to understand exactly what the Trump campaign did, what the president knew. And you're right, there are a lot of witnesses now that are sharing information with him, maybe concerned about their own culpability and their own criminal liability, but I think we all have to have confidence that Mr. Mueller and his team are going to get to the bottom of this so long as they're allowed to continue this investigation and it's free from political interference. The president has tried in every way to undermine it and to try to prevent it from continuing, and we have to all be very concerned what he'll do after the midterms.
And while I have you, you're on the Judiciary Committee. Without getting into the things you can't discuss, how do you and your colleagues view this very bizarre story about a conspiracy theory, perhaps sloppily done, to try to potentially frame Bob Mueller?
Well, I think it's just an example of how desperate the Republicans are getting and how afraid the administration is about what Mr. Mueller is going to find. I mean, here is a man who served his country, who is recognized by Republicans and Democrats alike when he was appointed as a person beyond reproach, of extraordinary integrity, who's doing a professional job, and they're actually trying to him with a made-up story and trying to pay a woman to do it. I mean, it's outrageous, and I'm disappointed that we're not hearing more from my Republican colleagues condemning this effort and speaking out on behalf of Mr. Mueller. But I just think it's an example of how fearful they are about what this investigation will find.
Well, and you make a great final point there, which is whatever the underlying facts, it's not hard to say that obviously any attempt to do any misinformation or framing of a prosecutor in this instance is wrong, and we've heard crickets from that side. David Cicilline, Congressman on the Judiciary Committee, thank you so much for joining tonight.
My pleasure.